But actually, we are here to talk about some comic book stuff. But before we talk about the books you and I both brought, which I'm very excited to hear what you have because I know you were telling me you had a couple ideas of what you could talk about today. Um, I wanted to bring up some, news that came out today, or not today, recently regarding the comic book world, the comic book film world, and everything. And some of the ones that I know you and I are probably the most interested in are the news pieces coming from DC. Specifically, there are a couple stories I'm going to talk about, but the first one I want to talk about is I believe it's the official announcement of Kyle Chandler playing Hal Jordan in the Lantern series. And if it's
Oh
not
wait,
officially announced,
when did I haven't heard about this. The last thing that I heard was that
it's
Josh Brolin and Matthew McConaughey had turned it down. So wait, who's playing him? Kyle Chandler?
yes, it's Kyle Chandler who was heavily rumored to play Cable in Deadpool 2. I believe he's confirmed as Green Lantern.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like it. It's on Deadline. It's on Hollywood Reporter. All right, all right.
Yeah.
I will say
Yeah, so
spitting fucking
what do you
image.
think about that?
I like it. I didn't say I feel like I've seen Kyle Chandler in a lot, but I don't remember what. Am I misremembering that
He
he
was
was
in
in
Friday Night
Top
Lights.
Gun?
I don't think he was in Top Gun, but he was I think his most notable role, like one of the most prominent ones is in Friday Night Lights. Um he was in the Godzilla films recently, the legendary
Oh,
ones, King of the Monsters.
interesting.
He's in Super 8, the
I can
film.
say I've seen Super 8. I'm
Yeah,
just looking at his filmography right now.
absolutely.
That's
I
interesting.
Yeah, I absolutely love this casting. I think this is pitch perfect. I think it works both. But like if he were younger and casted as Hal Jordan, it would have made complete sense. But since he's older, it also makes sense because I feel like Hal is going to be very much a mentor to Jon Stewart in this
Yeah.
series.
Well, I'm saying
So I love it.
I've already told you that like I have a very strong feeling that Hal is going to make a heel turn pretty early on um
Mhm.
in the DCU. That's my suspicion. And also Gunn has talked about one uh the degree to which the DCU is going to be inspired by the DC animated universe, which obviously, I mean, Hal, I don't even think necessarily exists in that universe, but you
It's
see, the,
very it's very peripheral how he
yeah,
exists in the DCAU.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I don't know if you, I'm sure he's shown up in like comic related material that's set in that universe, but like we see Kyle, but John is obviously the main Lantern,
Yeah.
and Gunn is
We
also
do see Hal at one point.
we do okay.
In the time travel episode where they go to meet where it's Batman, John Stewart, Wonder Woman, they go to the future. They meet Batman Beyond and like time is shifting and everything, time's playing around weirdly, and John Stewart is replaced moment just for like a scene and a half by Hal Jordan, and then
Oh,
he
okay.
goes back.
Interesting. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't remember that. But yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh, but then he's also Gunn has also talked about or has made it very clear that he's going to be drawing a lot on the DC Comics universe as it existed in the immediate aftermath of Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is why he's been posting a lot of stuff related to in particular Justice League International. And so it makes sense given because at the time of that initial reboot, um, Hal was definitely portrayed as being a lot older than I mean certainly
Yeah.
than his other lanterns, but even older than a lot of the other
The League
Justice League
members.
members.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they would go for someone who's a little bit older for that. So yeah, I'm interested to see what they're gonna do. I'm still it's still they're keeping a pretty tight lid on what the details of the series are. So I'm interested to see I'm interested to see what or who's going to be the antagonist because it seems like it's going to be set mostly on Earth. And they've alluded to some kind of like big threat
Yeah,
that is here on Earth. But I'm interested to see who or what they've picked because my initial reaction was like, oh, it's obviously going to be Black Hand. Um, but that was when I was thinking, oh, like um it's going to be borrowing more from like Jeff Johns's run. But again, given that it seems like they're leaning more towards like early kind of post-crisis DC, I'm not entirely sure what their plans are for it. So we'll see. We'll see.
yeah. Well, I know that the show is described as like True Detective but in space. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
one
yeah,
I
I'm really
the
interested in that.
yeah, well, let me say in the description of the series, it made it seem like there's some kind of like I definitely got like occult vibes. Like there's some
Yeah.
kind of like weird ancient evil, and if obviously them mentioning like True Detective in relation to the series, like obviously True Detective has a lot of like occult elements. So it definitely makes me think of something supernatural-ish. But I'm not nearly familiar enough with Green Lantern lore to be like, oh, this is what they're gonna do. Um, I will say I don't know. I really hope that they don't touch Jeff Johns' stuff too much. Because
Oh,
I
you
know
know they will,
this is a
man.
very unpopular opinion. I don't care for Jeff Johns' Green Lantern. I really don't. Um, I feel like I feel like there have been two things um, that have done I hesitate to say irreparable damage to Green Lantern as a franchise and just the continuity in its canon. The first was Hal's heel turn, which you could have come back from. But then after Hal's heel turn,
Well, they
uh,
kind of do with the John stuff
yeah, but then after that,
in Rebirth.
this is what I was getting to. After that, the other thing that I think did a lot of damage was the decision by Johns to resurrect Hal. And then a lot of the stuff that he did specifically with like the Spectrum, I think is kind of dumb, and I hate light entities. I hate Ion. I hate Parallax. I hate the fact that Hal's heel turn is the product of a an intergalactic parasite. I hate that. Um, and I hate the fact that because now there's a lantern core for every color in the fucking spectrum. And because of that, we now have shit like fucking ultraviolet lanterns. Do you know that this is a thing?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, it's to me it's the dumbest fucking shit. Um and it's kind of why I stay away from Green Lantern because on the face of it it's like it's fun. Like I should like it. It's like sci-fi it's like it's the closest thing to Star Wars that DC has, but just like so many of like the world building ideas are just kind of dumb. That's why I think it's why my favorite Green Lantern is why am I forgetting his name?
Guy Gardner.
Say again?
Guy Gardner.
No, well, yes. I like the guy as a character the most, but I like the lore around why am I forgetting his name? Jesus. The first Lantern.
The first man. Wait, is it you're not talking about Oa, are you?
No, no, no. The Golden Age Lantern.
Oh, yes, I've Alan Scott. Alan
Yes,
Scott.
thank you. Alan Scott. I like Alan Scott, just like the lore around him, because it's nice, it's simple, it doesn't involve stupid bullshit with like emotional color spectrums. It's simple. The ring, it's made out of a magical mystery material that fell from a comet, and it's just magic. No
To be
explanation.
fair, to be fair, on the other hand, let me kind of retort here. Let me
Okay.
defend the spectrum a bit. The magic fire and the lantern and the railroad and everything. I feel that's just as like I mean, it's just as plausible as the spectrum because if we're just saying, oh, it's just magic, I mean, I feel like that's just as arbitrary as a color spectrum. Now, I mean, these are ideas that are inherently silly, you know?
Sure.
So I can I'm as someone who's a fan of the spectrum and likes the other cores and everything. Um, I think it could be cool if it's explored correctly in that there I would hope that in exploring the emotional spectrum, and I hope this would like if they do this, I hope it would sway you and make you more interested in that they're as mysterious as space is mysterious. It's like almost like the Force, where there are different factions and different powers that draw people towards them, you know,
Sure.
and like I would hope that that's how they explore because I they are going to explore this spectrum in the DCU. They just are. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry,
know.
actually.
I know,
You
I
know,
know. I just fundamentally disagree with the concept of the spectrum. And again, it's how you get shit. It's how you get dumb shit like ultraviolet lanterns, which are powered by repressed emotion. It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
they don't have to adapt everything, but I do like when you brought up the cult aspect of this series, the first thing I thought of was, okay, we have another uh color, another core that acts cult-like, and it could. I feel like there are a lot
Congratulations.
of colors that could fit into that, whether it be yellow, red, black, especially. You know, so I what I would hope from this series, and with the casting of Kyle Chandler, they have what their mission is to redeem this character of Green Lantern. And I
Yeah.
think the casting of Kyle as Hal is a great step in that direction because the character has been shit on ever since that movie came out.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, talking about this version of Green Lantern is going to be a little difficult once they inevitably bring in the comics Kyle, because you're going to be talking about Kyle in relation to Hal. And you're going to be like, which
I know,
Kyle are we
right?
talking about? Are we talking about Kyle the character or Kyle the actor?
Who would you want as Kyle Gardner or Kyle Gardner?
Kyle Rayner?
Uh, Kyle Rayner.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah, that's actually hard. I honestly don't know. Um,
David Dasmalchian
I mean, I
as
feel like
Rayner.
so I feel like the Hollywood thing to do would be to get someone like either, I mean, honestly, to get someone either like Tom Holland or Timothy Chalamet to play Kyle Rayner.
Mm,
Um, I think that's like
someone
that would be
like
like,
them, you mean?
say
Like
again?
that type of actor. You don't mean them
Yeah.
specifically, right?
Yeah, like you want someone who's a little younger because I think Kyle is supposed to be in his like early mid 20s when he's introduced. He was very much like when he was created, he was very much he was kind of intended to be DC's answer to Spider-Man in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, once he got older and they brought Hal back, they kind of introduced Jaime as the third Blue Beetle, and he kind of ended up
He took that
taking
role,
that
yeah.
slot of like the younger, more kind of inexperienced, relatable TM superhero. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I would need to think about who I want for Kyle. And say the other thing that like kind of turns me off from the lanterns as a franchise is just there's way too many fucking lanterns at this point. There's way too many fucking lanterns. Like they should have capped it
Yeah.
at like they should have capped it after Kyle. Because there's now since the new 52, they've introduced one, two, three, I think four. Yeah, four new lanterns. So Simon Baz, Jessica Cruz, um, I don't remember her name. Um, they introduced another female lantern
Oh,
in
I know who you're talking
2020.
about. She has like pink kind of hair, right? Like
Not pink.
it's like a
I think
punkish
she has
kind
like
of.
she's like not like a fro exactly, but she's got like her mask is like it's like the weird the mask kind of looks like Star Sapphire's old mask, but it's but it looks like kind of green sunglasses. And then they also, for God knows what reason, they decided to do Kid Lantern for the Teen Titans.
Oh yeah,
We didn't need
we
that.
needed to fill that slot. We needed to fill that slot in the Teen Titans. We got a Batman, we got a Super Kid, we got a fucking a Flash Kid. Now we need Lantern Kid.
All I'm saying
Yeah.
is that this particular sector of the Lantern Corps' jurisdiction, it's getting a little crowded. Um,
Yeah, it's very bizarre. But to be fair, I think more happens around Earth than in anywhere else in the galaxy. You
I
know,
know, but it's like,
like they need a Justice League. Like that's kind of how crazy it is over on Earth. Like shit ain't
yeah, I
happening on
know, but
Mars.
it
So the Green Lantern series kind of has that duty of, rebuilding the reputation of the character, of the idea of the Green Lantern, because a lot of people thinks that the powers are kind of silly because of what happened in that film. And I think the way they're going to do it, not only with the casting of Hal Jordan with Kyle Chandler, but by showcasing Jon Stewart, who a lot of people will argue, including Neil Adams, the creator of Jon Stewart, should have been the Green Lantern we followed in that film begin with. So I think
was to
that's
say
how
people
they're
were
going to approach
confused
it.
when they saw Hal Jordan on the poster, like, who is this cracker?
That's racist.
And we're like,
Casting this
how
black character.
you're like, Hal came out before. That's the crazy thing is like, yeah, people like for the longest time, like people didn't know that Hal was a thing, despite being the Green Lantern from what, like 1950, you think three or four, up until when did Kyle come in? Like early
Like the
90s, like
90s.
92,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that. Um, so a stretch of like 40 years. And then he just got replaced by, I mean, they'd already kind of um they'd already kind of pushed John to the forefront starting in the 80s.
Mm.
Um and then obviously they brought Kyle in. Um and then when the DCAU, which I think the cartoons were a lot of people's, especially like people our age and a little older,
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of the cartoons were a lot of people's entrance into DC mythology. So yeah, it makes sense that people would have been confused. Like, yeah, who is this guy? Because you, like you said, you wasn't really in the DCAU. It was John. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that as dumb as I find a lot of the world building elements to be, I'm hoping that this series re-legitimizes Green Lantern and makes people more interested in
Yeah.
that part of DC.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. I mean, I like that I already like what they're doing with this world and that they're spreading a lot of the elements throughout different projects. Like
Yeah.
related to Green Lantern, we're going to see Guy Gardner in Superman. We're going to see that version, which is going to give us an idea of what the Green Lanterns are and what they're capable of and everything. And what I also really like, the reason I'm very happy that it seems like John is going to be kind of the person we're following is because for me, John Stewart is probably one of the more interesting Green Lanterns because he is
Yeah.
kind of blue collar in a way, and
Yeah, I
his
just say, well, and
relationships are really interesting as well.
Hal is not necessarily the most likable person. He's at least,
Hal,
yeah,
yeah, no, Hal's very like when done. I don't want to say correctly, but when done most consistently, he's got like a stick up his ass. A lot of the time.
yeah, yeah. He's
Yeah,
definitely, he's definitely not the easiest person for a lot of other heroes to work with. And yeah, I think to say that he's kind of got to stick up his ass I think is accurate. He's not, I mean, like, Guy is also an asshole, but there's a
guy's a
way in which,
jackass.
yeah, but there's a way in which he's charming, at least to me, that Hal not isn't necessarily. Um, yeah, and I think, and then Kyle's a little bit bland, TBH. But I think,
Kyle has the artistry aspect to him that makes him interesting in terms of
yeah,
like how he utilizes his powers, but I've never his personality. I've known him as what you said. He's kind of like a stand-in for like a Peter Parker in the
Yeah,
Justice League, you know,
yeah,
but then he got the Tim Drake kind of,
yeah. He
uh,
really did get
you
the
know,
Tim Drake treatment, unfortunately.
exactly. Yeah. It's sad. It's now like, where
Yeah,
is he?
yeah. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Part of the with talking about the multiplication of lanterns, and this also applies to the multiplication of like Batman sidekicks. And I think we've maybe talked about this before. Just like part of the problem with the incentive structure in terms of like payouts for superhero comics is that you don't get royalties. Like if you write for a character that was created by another person, you don't get royalties for that version of the character that you've written. The person that created the original character continues to get royalties. So you only get royalties for characters that you've created. So there's an incentive to create a whole bunch of new characters um,
Look at
when you
Miles
take
Morales
over a
with Brian
pre-existing
Michael Bendis.
franchise. Say again?
Miles Morales with Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah. And you say, and then again, like the prime example I think of this is just the multiplication of Robins.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
the we need to stop. Need to put a cap. I need the editors at DC, someone to step in and be like, okay, no more. No more. We're gonna try and fix the payout the payout structure so that you don't do this. But yeah,
Actually,
that's all I have to say.
do you know what company you're referring to? It's
I know, I
DC.
know, I know. I know that would never happen, but I can
You know what
dream.
DC stands for? You know what it stands for?
Uh
Discash. Okay, this is what we're grasping for. All right.